So we're all hearing it constantly, right? That AI is this magic bullet for productivity. But what if, and this is a big what if, for the really skilled people, the experts, it actually does the opposite? Well, a fascinating new study is here, and it's basically flipping one of our biggest assumptions about AI in the workplace completely on its head.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard the promise. We've all heard it. AI is supposed to supercharge programmers, make them faster, more efficient, the whole deal. But the reality, at least according to this study, is something totally different. For really experienced developers working on really complex stuff, these AI tools, they actually slowed them down.
And we're not talking about a small amount. This was a rigorous new study, and it found that when these elite, super experienced developers got access to the latest and greatest AI tools, it didn't speed them up. Nope. It slowed them down by 19%. That's a huge number. So, okay, you're probably wondering the same thing I was. How on earth did they figure this out?
All right, so first things first. This wasn't one of those sterile lab experiments, you know? The kind with made-up problems that don't really reflect the real world. No. The researchers here were smart. They designed a study specifically to measure AI's impact out in the wild, on actual projects.
To do this, they use what's considered the gold standard for this kind of research, a randomized controlled trial, or RCT. And if that sounds complicated, it's really not. Just think of it like a clinical trial for medicine. You have a control group and a treatment group, but instead of a new drug, the treatment here was getting access to top-of-the-line AI coding assistants. We're talking tools like Cursor Pro and Claude 3.5 Sonnet. The setup itself was actually pretty simple, but incredibly powerful. They took 16 elite developers. These are people with, on average, 5 years of experience on their specific projects, so they know their stuff inside and out. The researchers had them work on real tasks from their own to-do lists. For some tasks, AI was allowed. For others, it wasn't. And then they just timed them. Simple as that. But before we get to the actual results, this is where it gets really, really interesting. What did everyone expect to happen?
Okay, this is where the story takes a fascinating turn. Because before the experiment even started, the researchers went around and asked everyone involved what they thought the outcome would be. And the developers themselves, they were pretty optimistic. They predicted that using these AI tools would make them about 24% faster. A nice little speed boost.
But then you get to the machine learning and economics experts, and they were even more bullish. They were predicting a massive 38% speed up, almost 40% faster.
So just look at this chart. You've got the developers predicting a big speed boost, the experts predicting an even bigger one, and then reality hits. That gap between the predictions and what actually happened is just wow. It's massive. Instead of this huge speed up, there was a significant slowdown.
But wait, it gets even weirder. This is the real kicker. Even after the study was over, after they had literally experienced this slowdown firsthand, the developers still believed the AI had made them faster. By 20%. Their perception was the complete opposite of what the clock said. Which, of course, raises one giant question. Why? What on earth was going on?
So yeah, why the slowdown? What was really happening under the hood? Well, to figure it out, the researchers went back and analyzed everything. I mean, everything. Screen recordings, the developers' personal notes. They wanted to unpack the exact mechanics behind this completely unexpected result.
And the first big clue comes from looking at how the developers spent their time. When AI was allowed, the time they spent actually coding or searching for stuff went down. But a whole new chunk of time appeared out of nowhere. Time spent managing the AI. Writing prompts, waiting for the AI to generate something, then reviewing its output. All those little things started to add up to a lot of time.
And when they dug even deeper, they realized it wasn't just one single thing causing the problem. It was more like a perfect storm of factors. You had human psychology, this over-optimism, colliding head-on with the very real limitations of the AI in a complex, real-world setting.
This quote from one of the developers really just says it all, doesn't it? It gets right to the heart of the expertise problem. You've got someone who is a dedicated maintainer. They know this one part of the code better than anyone. For them, the entire map of the project, all its little quirks and history, it's already in their head. That deep personal knowledge was just a faster and way more reliable tool than the AI.
And this other note really highlights the hidden cost of an unreliable tool. Can you just imagine the frustration? You waste a whole hour trying to wrangle the AI, trying to get it to solve your problem, only to give up, revert all the changes, and just do it manually. That's not just an hour lost from your day, that's a total momentum killer.
So, after all this, what's the bigger picture? Does this study mean that AI coding assistants are useless? No, absolutely not. The takeaway here is way more nuanced, and honestly, it's a lot more important than just a simple AI is bad conclusion.
What this study really is a vital reality check. It shows us that context is everything. The benefits of AI aren't some universal magic that applies everywhere, to everyone. For true experts working on familiar, complex projects that they know inside and out, well, the current generation of AI tools can sometimes get in the way more than they actually help. It also shows this huge gap between how productive we feel we're being and what's actually happening. That's a huge insight.
And all of this leaves us with a final, really provocative thought to chew on. As AI gets more and more powerful, how are we going to measure what better actually means? This study kind of forces us to think more critically about how we measure progress, how we measure productivity, and maybe, most importantly, how we measure the true, irreplaceable value of deep human expertise.